A grown man is standing outside a tomb. The tomb is a cave, cut into a hillside in a small village called Bethany, less than 2 miles from Jerusalem. A stone has been rolled across the mouth of it. Behind that stone is the body of a man who has been dead for 4 days. In that climate, in that century, 4 days means one thing. The decay has already started. Everyone standing there knows it. When someone suggests moving the stone, a voice in the crowd says out loud what they're all thinking. By now there will be a smell. And around this tomb, there is noise. Professional mourners have been hired, the way they always were back then. There are women wailing on cue. There may be flute players. Grief in that world was loud and public and partly performed. It was a service you paid for. But the man at the center of all this is quiet. He is the one everyone keeps glancing at, because everyone knows he could have prevented this. The dead man was his friend. The 2 sisters standing nearby had sent word days ago. Come quickly, the one you love is sick. And he didn't come. Not until now. Not until it was 4 days too late. And then this man, the one the crowd is watching, the one who has healed strangers and stilled storms and fed thousands on a hillside, does the last thing anyone expects. He starts to cry. Not loudly. Not with the performed wailing of the hired mourners around him. Something quieter than that. Tears just begin to fall down his face, in silence in front of everyone. His name is Jesus. And what you have to understand before we go any further is that this is not the only time it happens. The Gospels record the Son of God breaking down more than once. But here's what almost nobody notices. Each time he cried differently. One time the tears fall in silence like this. Another time he wails out loud in the middle of a cheering crowd. And one final time, in a garden, in the dark. He cries so hard that the writer who describes it reaches for a word that means something closer to screaming. We will get to that final cry, the loudest one. But not yet, because this is not a story about weakness. This is not a story about one sad afternoon. This is not a story about a soft, sentimental Jesus who couldn't keep it together. This is a story about the only recorded moments when the God of the universe, the one the Bible says is holding every atom of creation together right now, lost his composure in front of human witnesses. 3 moments. 3 completely different kinds of tears. And by the time we reach the 3rd one, you may never read the 2 shortest words in the Bible the same way again. So let's go back to that tomb, and let's slow it down. The sick man's name was Lazarus. He lived in Bethany with his 2 sisters, Martha and Mary. And these 3 were not strangers to Jesus. This was the house he stayed in. This was the table he ate at. When the Gospel of John introduces this family, it says plainly that Jesus loved them. So when Lazarus fell sick, the sisters did the obvious thing. You can picture the messenger running the road to find Jesus, carrying a short and desperate note. Lord, the one you love is sick. Now, here is the first thing that should stop you. When Jesus got that message, he did not rush. The text says he stayed where he was 2 more days. On purpose. He let his friend die. You need to sit with how that would have felt to those 2 sisters. Every hour, they're watching the road. Every hour, they're thinking, he's coming, he'll be here any minute. He's healed total strangers, of course he'll come for us. And the road stays empty. And then Lazarus stops breathing. And the road is still empty. They wrap the body. They carry it to the cave. They roll the stone across it. And the road is still empty. If you've ever waited by a phone for news that never comes, you know that road. You know that silence. By the time Jesus finally walks into Bethany, it has been 4 days. Martha hears he's coming and goes out to meet him on the road. And what she says to him is one of the most honest things anyone says in the whole Bible. It's not a sermon. It's barely even faith. It's an accusation wrapped in grief. Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. You can almost hear it. Where were you? Then Mary comes. And Mary doesn't even stand. She falls down at his feet and says the exact same thing her sister said. If you had been here. The same sentence. 2 sisters, same wound. And it's right here, watching Mary fall apart at his feet, surrounded by all those wailing mourners, that something breaks loose in Jesus. The text says two things happened in him, and both of them matter. First, it says he was deeply moved in spirit and troubled. That gentle English phrase is hiding something. The Greek underneath it is a word used for a horse snorting in anger. It's not soft. It's not sentimental. Jesus is angry. Not at the sisters, at death itself, at the grave, at what sin has done to the people he made. He is standing at the edge of the enemy's territory, and he is furious. And then second, he weeps. Here is where the original language does something beautiful. And it's the thing most people miss. The Greek word John uses here is edakrysen, and it appears exactly one time in the entire New Testament. Right here. Nowhere else. It means to quietly shed tears, to let them leak out in silence. This is not wailing. This is not the loud performed grief of the hired mourners standing all around him. Picture the contrast. A whole crowd is making professional noise. The flute players, the paid weepers doing the job they were paid to do. And in the middle of all that manufactured sound, the one person who has every right to fall apart simply lets the tears run down his face without a word. That's the first time. Silent tears at the grave of a friend he was about to raise from the dead. And that's the part that makes you stop. He knew. He already knew he was about to call Lazarus out of that tomb alive in about 90 seconds. He knew the ending was good. And he cried anyway, not because the situation was hopeless, but because the people he loved were in pain, and standing close to their pain moved him to tears, even when he held the solution in his own hands. So the first thing you learn about the tears of God is this: He is not waiting for your problem to be unsolvable before he's willing to weep with you. He'll cry next to you, even when he already knows how the story ends. So that's one. Silent tears at a grave. If this is hitting you somewhere, do me a favor and hit subscribe before we go on. This channel walks through the Bible exactly like this, one overlooked detail at a time, and I don't want you to miss the next one. And while you're at it, start keeping count. 3 times Jesus wept. You've seen the first. 2 left, and each one gets louder than the last. By the end, I'm going to ask you which of the 3 hit you the hardest, so keep that question in the back of your mind. Because the second time he cried, he wasn't standing at a grave at all. He was in the middle of a parade. Picture the loudest, happiest day of Jesus's public life. It's the day we now call Palm Sunday. He is riding into Jerusalem on a young donkey, and the road in front of him is a sea of people. They're throwing their coats on the ground. They're cutting branches and waving them. They're shouting a word you've probably heard in church, Hosanna, which means save us now. This is the closest thing to a coronation Jesus ever gets on earth. The crowd is electric. Everyone wants to be near him. You'd have been in that crowd waving a branch, never guessing what the man on the donkey was about to do. And right there, at the high point of the celebration, riding into the cheering, he looks up and sees the city spread out in front of him, and he falls apart. Luke records it in one stunning sentence. When he drew near and saw the city, he wept over it. Now stop, because the Greek just changed. Back at the tomb of Lazarus, the word was edakrysen, silent tears. Here Luke uses a completely different word, eklausen. And that word does not mean quiet weeping. It means to wail, to sob out loud. The kind of crying that turns heads and stops conversations. So picture the scene honestly. Imagine you're cheering, and the one man you came to see is sobbing. The crowd is roaring with joy all around him, and in the dead center of his own parade, Jesus is openly weeping. Nobody else can see what he sees. They're celebrating. He's grieving. And he's not hiding it. What was he crying about? He tells us in the very next breath. He looks at the city and says, "If only you had known what would bring you peace. But now it is hidden from your eyes." And then he says something chilling. He says, The days are coming when your enemies will build a barricade against you and surround you and hem you in on every side. They will tear you down to the ground, you and your children. And they will not leave one stone standing on another. Here's the part nobody tells you. That was not poetry. That was a prophecy with a date on it. About 40 years later, in the year 70, it happened exactly the way he said. The Roman army marched on Jerusalem under a general named Titus. We're not guessing about the details. A Jewish historian named Josephus lived through it and wrote it all down. He describes a siege wall thrown up around the entire city, the exact barricade Jesus described. He describes a famine so total that the dead lay unburied in the streets. He describes the temple, the most sacred building in the Jewish world, going up in flames. And when it was over, the city was so thoroughly demolished that you could hardly believe anyone had ever lived there. One stone was not left on another. Jesus saw all of that 40 years early, while the crowd was still cheering and waving branches in his face. And that's the second kind of tears, not the private grief of one funeral. This is a man weeping over an entire city, over thousands of people he loved who were about to walk straight into ruin, who could have been saved, and who would not come to him. He once said it out loud another way. Jerusalem, Jerusalem, how often I have longed to gather your children together, the way a hen gathers her chicks under her wings. And you were not willing. That's the ache underneath this weeping, not just sadness, rejected love. The grief of someone who could see the cliff coming, who stretched out his arms and watched the people he was reaching for turn and walk the other way. So the first time he cried over a grave. This time he cried over a city. And both times, notice what's true. The tears come from love that runs straight into loss. But we're not done. Because the third time he wept, it wasn't over someone else's death at all. It was over his own. It's a few nights later. The parade is over. The cheering is gone. Jesus walks out of the city, across a small valley, and into a grove of old olive trees called Gethsemane. He brings 11 of his closest friends, and then he takes 3 of them deeper in with him: Peter, James, and John. The same 3 who had seen him on the mountain, glowing with glory. Now they're going to see the opposite. He tells them, "My soul is crushed with grief to the point of death. Stay here. Stay awake with me." And then he goes a little farther, alone, and he falls on the ground. This is the third time. And this is the one the opening of this video was pointing at. Because there's a verse tucked away in the book of Hebrews that looks back on this exact night and describes what it sounded like. It says that in the days of his flesh, Jesus offered up prayers with loud cries and tears. Loud cries. And the Greek word there is krauges, not the silent edakrysen of the tomb, not even the public eklausen of the parade. Krauges is the strongest of the 3. It's the word you'd use for a scream, a cry torn out of a body in agony. That's the loudest one, the one I told you we'd get to. And now you can feel the whole pattern at once. Silent tears at a friend's grave, a wail over a doomed city, and finally, in the dark, alone on the ground, a scream. Luke tells us how physical it got. He says Jesus was in such anguish that his sweat became like great drops of blood falling to the ground. Doctors actually have a name for this. It's rare, but it's real. Under extreme stress, the tiny blood vessels around the sweat glands can rupture, and a person can literally sweat blood. That's the level of pressure on him that night. And here is where I want to bring in something most people never connect to this: the science of why human beings cry. It turns out the tears you cry from chopping an onion and the tears you cry from heartbreak are not the same fluid. Scientists have measured them. Emotional tears, the kind that come from grief, actually carry a different chemistry. They flush stress hormones out of your body. They carry a natural painkiller the body makes under distress, which means crying is not a malfunction. It's not weakness leaking out of you. It's a release valve. It's the system working exactly as designed, carrying pain out of the body so the body doesn't have to hold all of it. Now, sit with this. The God who designed that release valve, who wired your body so that tears would carry pain away, used it himself. He didn't hover above human suffering and watch it from a safe distance. He climbed all the way down into a body that sweats and aches and breaks. And on the worst night of his life, that body did exactly what your body does. It cried, hard, out loud, into the dirt. So understand what this third weeping is not. This is not a God who can't relate to your worst night. This is not a distant deity who finds your tears embarrassing. This is not a force that demands you keep it together and stop crying. This is the maker of the universe, face down in the dirt, screaming and sweating blood, because the cup in front of him was so heavy that even God in the flesh, wept his way through it, and he drank it anyway. That's the part you cannot miss. He wept, and then he stood up, and he walked toward the cross on purpose, so that the death he cried over at Lazarus's tomb and the ruin he cried over above the city would not get the final word over you. Before we land this one more time, if this is the kind of Bible teaching you've been looking for, subscribe so the next one finds you. It genuinely helps this channel reach the people who need it. So let's bring it home. 3 takeaways from the 3 times Jesus wept. First, the precision was on purpose. 3 weepings, 3 different Greek words, 3 escalating volumes, silent tears at a grave, a wail over a city, a scream in a garden. The gospel writers didn't reach for those exact words by accident. When God put on skin, he didn't cry one generic kind of cry. He cried the specific way grief actually comes out of a real human body, quietly sometimes, loudly other times, and once so hard it tore out of him. The detail was never decoration. It was a record of how completely he became one of us. Second, this is personal, and I don't want you to miss how personal. Look again at what he cried over. He wept over death. He wept over a people who wouldn't come home. And he wept over a future he dreaded but walked into anyway. Now think about what makes you cry. It is almost certainly one of those same 3. You've lost someone. You're aching over people you love, who are walking the wrong direction. Or you're staring down, something coming that you don't know how you'll survive. Whatever your tears are made of tonight, he has already cried over that exact thing. You are not weeping about something he doesn't understand. And third, here's the one I really want to leave you with. Every single time we watched him cry, he was the one with the answer in his hands. At the tomb, he was about to raise the dead. Over the city, he was about to make a way of peace nobody deserved. In the garden, he was about to win the whole thing. He cried, and then he fixed it. He cried, and then he saved. And the Bible says the very last thing he does, at the very end of the whole story, is this. He will wipe away every tear from their eyes, and death shall be no more, neither shall there be mourning, nor crying, nor pain anymore. Read that slowly. The hands that wiped his own tears at Gethsemane are the same hands that one day reach up and wipe yours. The God who wept is the God who ends weeping. He doesn't just understand your tears. He has a date set to dry them, personally, with his own hand. So let me ask you the question I told you was coming. Of the 3 times Jesus wept, the silent tears for Lazarus, the wail over the city, or the scream in the garden, which one hit you the hardest? Tell me below. I read the comments, and I think your answer might be closer to what you're carrying right now than you realize. He wept silently. He wept out loud. And once, he wept until it sounded like screaming. Not because he was weak, but because he loved you all the way down, into the dirt, into the tears, and out the other side.